Good morning, Level 2s. I hope you're keeping well. This is a video just to introduce our new unit to you that we're starting today. This unit is our first physics unit. Not your first physics unit, 'cause you have studied some physics with other teachers, but it's the first physics unit that I am going to be teaching you. As you know, we will have studied 4 units as a class between the beginning and the end of the year. We have wrapped up 3 of them. So we've done units 2, 5 and 19. We've covered all the content and now you're just finishing up the work. So this is our last unit. It's going to take us up to the end of the year, and I'm just going to introduce it to you now so you know kind of what it's about and where we're going with it. So this is a typical kind of foundational physics unit. It's going to cover some basics like motion, electricity and forces, I think, are the main things that we're looking at. I'm just going to cover today what you need to know for our first week of lessons on it. We'll be studying this unit as a workbook, so we've prepared a workbook for you. That's the way that you're going to work on this unit, and that I'm going to assess it as well. So a bit like unit 19. I'm going to release a chapter of the workbook to you each week, so I'm not going to give it to you all at once, partly because it's being adapted for distance learning, so I'm kind of tweaking it as we go, but also just so you've got only what you need that week. I think it's a bit nicer to just have that and not be swamped with the information. An important part of this that we've not done before, we didn't do this for our other booklet unit, is that because you are studying this remotely and I'm teaching it remotely, as I show you the booklet, you're going to notice that it has annotations in it, like when I mark your work. It's a similar kind of annotation. So I'm just going to show you here what would normally be called marking comments. When you get your marked digital work back from me, you have these comments with the marking feedback. Here I'm using these comments as kind of guidance notes. So as you're working through the booklet, what I want you to do is pay close attention to these notes. As you know, I'll be online taking questions and supporting you to complete the work through our Teams app. But what I would like you to do, because it takes quite a lot of time to go through and do all of this, is I've tried to filter out some of the first questions you'll have. It's easier for you because you don't have to, you know, it's right there and you can just carry on with the work. And it's easier for me because I'm not going to be answering the same questions multiple times in private chat windows. So hopefully it will just make it easier for everyone. But in the first instance, if you have a question about the work, please check these resources and comments along the side and pay close attention to exactly what bit they're highlighting. So for example, this one, the purple bit is showing you exactly what that comment relates to, and so on. Okay, so just pay close attention to those. We're going to come back up to the top because the chapter that I'm releasing today is going to look at a good chunk of these first assessment criteria. So these criteria are just for the first learning outcome of this unit. There's 3 learning outcomes. This is the learning outcomes just for the first one. And the criteria that the work I've set you today is going to relate to are these: the P1 and the P2, the M1 and the D1. I've flagged up in the workbook, I've tried to label where the criteria are, but just to give you an overview, the P1 is going to be to collect some data from the clip from Terminator. It's John Connor's Race Against Time, and you're going to collect some data on the motion that's going on with the character in that clip. The second bit here is a separate data set that's been collected for you, and it's a different experiment carried out by a group of students in the college, and that is detailed in the booklet here. For the merit, you're going to do some work on interpreting these graphs. For the distinction, you're going to calculate some gradients and kind of set that in context. For one of these, you're looking at a distance time graph, and for one of these, you're looking at a speed time graph, and there's a bit of a difference in terms of what the gradient means in each of those scenarios. And distinguishing that and being able to calculate those gradients is what is done for the distinction here. To complete this learning outcome, it will be the P3, M2, D2, and we'll tackle that next week. So for this week, the only parts we're looking at are these 4 criteria: P1, P2, M1 and D1. So if you complete the booklet fully and correctly, that will be all the way up to distinction, but then you would still need to achieve these criteria next week as well. Okay, I think that's probably enough for now, as an introduction to the unit and an introduction to how to use the booklet. It's a total of 7 pages for this week, but there's some kind of big gaps for calculations and pasting Excel graphs in. There will also be a video on helping you with some of those Excel graph creating kind of processes, because I know some of you struggle with that, so there'll be a video on that. All right, thanks guys.